Dinosaurs are indisputably cool, right? From Jurassic Park to Brach's Rocks to Dinosaurs and even Denver the Last Dinosaur, my childhood was dominated by prehistoric creatures. I had a whole collection of little rubber neon figurines, a 3-foot-tall Dilophosaurus plush, and even a dinosaur joke book. But all phases of interest must end, and while I'd be lying if I said I didn't still enjoy the majesty and mystery of these Mesozoic monsters, there was a definite finale to their tenure within my brain. A last one out gets the lights mentality that held hands with my evergreen passion for fighting games while tagging out to my preteen interest in over-the-top brutality.
Primal Rage.
I'm Eric J. Chucky, and welcome to Violent Profiles, where we discuss obscure fighting games and the rosters that define them. I don't remember where exactly I first ran into Atari's prehistoric platform for pugilism. To me, the meeting was less important than the game itself. The premise was simple. A crashing meteor has undone civilization and returned Earth to a prehistoric era where godlike apes and dinosaurs battle for supremacy. Even with a roster of only 7 characters, I spent a lot of time with this game, cataloging different moves, trying in vain to do the temperamental fatalities on my SNES cart, and, of course, playing a little human volleyball. What I remember most fondly, however, is using the skills I honed at home in the arcade to school a couple of shocked teenagers several years my senior as my father looked on in pride. My character of choice for that fight was Armadon, one of the 4 virtuous beasts whose goal was to keep peace on Earth and protect it against destruction. He was the last to emerge from his subterranean slumber, disturbed by all the fighting due to his connection to the planet's life force and energy flow. He mostly resembles a bipedal Chasmosaurus with extra spikes, a long tail, and a Thagomizer. Side note, as a fan of the Far Side from early childhood, can I just take a minute to enjoy the fact that not only is the commonly used informal name for the spiked end of a Stegosaurus tail based on one of Gary Larson's comics, but it's described that way on the Primal Rage wiki? Glorious. I think what young me enjoyed about Armadon was his simple combos and diverse special moves. It made him feel very well-rounded. I can also appreciate that after whipping all the other dinosaurs into paste, he just goes back to sleep underground like so much grumpy grandpa.
Get off my lawn.
Another quick aside, when I first conceived of relaunching Violent Profiles, I had plans to record all this footage myself. The fact that I didn't is down to the happenstance that I wanted to cover this game first. The arcade iteration of Primal Rage was my choice for what you see on screen, since while I primarily played the Super Nintendo version in my youth, the arcade graphics are so much better. Except that MAME didn't want to cooperate with my capture software, and there's the other sticky wicket of the hard-coded anti-piracy features. Characters might trip for no good reason, gravity and attack timing becomes absurd, and as you've probably noticed, the blood sometimes turns into Dijon mustard.
Pardon me? Would you have any grey Poupon?
This copy protection was so aggressive that it persists in what were supposed to be perfect ports in 2 Midway Arcade Treasures collections. I'm given to understand there's a PC version that looks pretty good, but we've crossed the Rubicon on that particular subject. Fight footage would take less time to collect from the internet, and better yet, the people playing the games would actually look like they knew how. I'm unlikely to mention it again, so just remember, if you're ever impressed by what you see on screen, credits are in the description. Most of my time on the SNES was spent with Talon, a speedy velociraptor-like dinosaur with a mane of feathers, though playing him today I'm not sure why. He's faster than the rest of the roster, but his specials are mostly excruciatingly short range, and his run ability takes way too many button inputs to feel worth moving a bit more quickly. I also don't know why I thought he was a girl. The story even said he was the chief of the raptor clans and had many wives. Maybe I was really into hot lesbian raptor action.
It's sexual, baby. And I want to give it all to you.
I was not. That was a joke. Anyhow, Talon hails from a hidden island in the South Pacific that was brought into contact with the rest of the world from the meteor strike. Though he's considered one of the heroic virtuous beasts, Talon mostly wants peace and paradise for his people. I guess defensive xenophobia is more virtuous than, say, world domination. Speaking of world domination, the red and black Tyrannosaurus Diablo was released from the bowels of the earth by the Cataclysm and seeks to turn the world into a raging inferno of suffering. His own personal vision of hell, with him as the devil on the throne. I personally always pictured my apocalyptic bringers of ruin with bigger arms, but whatever works. Maybe that's the reason I never really used Diablo, or perhaps it's just the somewhat awkward hitboxes of his normals. Bonus points for having a teleport, though. Let's move on from someone who can't punch to someone who punches quite a lot. I feel like I slept on Blizzard as a youngster because I've never been a big fan of primates, and his cover boy status triggered the "if it's popular it must be lame" reaction in me. That was a mistake. This monkey has reach, some really satisfying command grabs, and Sub-Zero style ice powers to freeze your enemy in place. His moves are among the most intuitive in the game, and he's got decent motivations as the deity of nobility and wisdom. Being set free from his glacial prison by the meteor, Blizzard stomps down from his mountain home to restore the world to order before returning to stand watch as a philosopher guardian. And come on, what a great look! A more lithe King Kong with a feral, almost baboon-like face and really crisp coloration keeps Blizzard from looking like a dopey monkey and grants legitimacy to his status as an unfrozen simian god. After moving on from Armadon, and before my futile efforts at mastering Talon, my controller belonged to the hypnotic gaze of the serpentine Vertigo. Playing her today, I think she'd probably be my main. First off, check out that look, that color scheme! 1994 me loved the Charlotte Hornets, so I was vibing with the teal and purple. She also had easy to remember moves, including hot pink projectiles, a stun, a hook, and reach for days in her normals. Plus, for a burgeoning young edgelord, being the goddess of insanity, the moon, and dark sorcery drew me to her even more. She was sealed away inside the moon by the archmage Balsaphas and released by the shockwaves from the Cataclysm. After defeating the other gods, she uses the minds of the hapless humans remaining on Earth for her dark experiments, shredding them into madness and forcing them to build her a twisted palace that exists in multiple dimensions. Holy shit, I am using this as the basis for a Dungeons & Dragons villain, like, immediately. Let's talk about the two palette swap fighters, the first of which being the yellow and purple counterpart to Diablo, Sauron. Despite being listed as one of the supposedly heroic virtuous beasts, Sauron is not only named for the Dark Wizard main antagonist from the Lord of the Rings, but is also the god of hunger who must sustain his immortality by devouring human flesh. He thrives on war and battles the other deities, so he has absolute right to eat their worshippers. That doesn't particularly sound like a good guy to me, but what do I know? I'm not a dinosaur. I don't care for either Tyrannosaur, but I think I prefer Diablo's special moves to Sauron. Neat ideas with hot pink stunning roars, but the execution's a little rough. Finally, we have Chaos. Chaos was not originally a gargantuan ape god, instead beginning life as either a skilled geneticist who coveted Blizzard's powers, or a ruthless witch doctor who wanted to control humanity's evolution. Maybe both? As part of his quest, he cast a diabolical spell, or did a diabolical science experiment that backfired and turned him into a giant monkey, which forced him to live in his own filth and excrement until the meteor struck. Chaos said a prayer to the god of Carrion for release from his curse and was set forth to destroy the other dino gods. Win the game with this pink-furred monkey and he'll return to his buff, Frazetta-esque human form and be granted rule of Earth. Much like Sauron, Chaos's specials feel a bit inferior to his blue counterpart and are often harder to execute. However, the stun effects are a nice touch, and playing a monkey who farts, pees, and pukes on his enemies is the height of comedy for some folks. Chaos is probably the character most known from Primal Rage who didn't play the game before the controversy in the presence of top 100 ridiculous fighting game finishers video listicles. His golden shower fatality caused such uproar from concerned parents that the games were pulled from Best Buy shelves and the move was censored in future releases. No real loss, but still interesting to see how something so small could spark so many bunched pairs of underwear less than 20 years ago. I suppose the character's in-game actions causing mass hysteria in real life is living up to his name.
Chaos Control!
Primal Rage had an immediate and legitimate impact, so much so that by 1995 there was a 4-issue comic book miniseries, and later a 1997 novelization called Primal Rage: The Avatars, which I dimly recall reading years ago and finding underwhelming. It was intended to bridge the gap between the original game and a sequel, where the characters from the first game were sealed away and had to fight through human avatars who could only temporarily morph into the gods. 2 new characters would be included, Slashfang the Smilodon and Necrosan, a zombie dragon boss who was cut from the original release, as well as the humanoid forms of each god. Unfortunately, Primal Rage 2 was cancelled during development because of a buyout by Mortal Kombat publisher Midway and a story better told by Matt McMuscles. Still, much like a lot of the games you'll see covered on this show, Primal Rage had a great core concept and decent gameplay. One has to wonder what the fighting game landscape would look like today if this game had risen to the likes of Killer Instinct or Samurai Showdown. Next time on Violent Profiles, we'll look at a grim, sludgy little cyberpunk title with a lot of ambition and surprisingly deep lore. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and support us on Patreon at the $10 tier to get new episodes a month early. Shout out to all the names currently on screen for doing exactly that. Until next time, White out.